Welcome to Firefighting Today, the weekly roundtable show. All sorts of things fire service related. Tonight we're going to ask a couple of questions about what should the fire service start doing or what should the fire service stop doing. It's a little exercise I do with folks, and we're going to introduce the panel. The panel all of those things as we go along. So let's get started. So, I am Peter Lamb. I'm the author of PeteLamb.com, and I am also the host of the Firefighter Training Podcast. That's where you can find me. You can find me on social media and a bunch of other places. So, let's introduce the panel, starting with Adam.
Good evening, everyone. Adam Ganley, coming from Kellogg, Iowa, and I am a volunteer with the fire department here, and I am a captain.
Great. Christine, say hello.
Hi everyone, Christine Saracino from Woodridge, New Jersey State Certified EMT.
All right, I lost the tail end of that, Christine, after New Jersey State Certified EMT. You want to add something to that? Ethan.
Sorry about that. Hi, Pete. Ethan Bansek, Lorraine, Ohio, student of the trade.
All right. Thank you, Ethan. And a first-time roundtabler with us, John. Say hello. Tell the folks where you're from.
How you doing? Thank you, Peter, for having me on tonight. My name is John Haywick, Lieutenant with the City of Passaic Fire Department, New Jersey.
Thank you for being here, and we'll get you wrapped in the discussion here pretty quick. Rob, say hello tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Rob Fling, First Assistant Chief with the Dix Hills Fire Department out on Long Island. I'm a Firefighter Toolbox contributor, the founder of Face Peace On, and Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reigning champion of downloads on PeteLamb.com.
You may be the reigning champion. As of, actually, I didn't check late today, but I think you were at 1,000. Wow. So I think that's a pretty good 2-week total for folks. If you didn't catch the podcast episode with us, if you go to firefightertrainingpodcast.com or iTunes or any place you pick up podcasts, Rob and I did a pretty good interview that was pretty well received on wearing your face piece and his new project, Face Piece On. So here's the story. A lot of folks talk about leadership. A lot of folks talk about running a department, managing a department, and doing things. Here's a little exercise you can do, and we're going to do the exercise in real life in a different manner. I suggest to you that you put a notice out to your offices or the members, or however you want to do it. Maybe it's 2 separate occasions. And the questions go like this. Tell me 3 things that this department should start doing, or tell me 3 things that this department should stop doing. And those are interesting questions, and you don't have anybody sign their names, or you can have them sign their names depending on what you do. Maybe you have the officers sign their names to it, and the firefighters do it in an anonymous fashion. And then you as department leadership can take these responses in, and you will be surprised at the answers that you get when you're able to do this. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So that's what we're going to do. Tonight, rather than bring up individual department problems here, because I don't think that's a good idea, just in general, let's talk about the fire service in general. So anybody can chime in here on the panel, but let me just throw something out. What is Chief Lamb talking about tonight? Here's what I'm talking about. Maybe the fire service should stop. This is a stop one. Maybe the fire service should stop making fire apparatus so big, so high, so complicated. We're overcomplicating fire apparatus. Pete's opinion, not a factual thing. It's just Pete's opinion. Maybe we should stop putting so much stuff on fire apparatus because it's high or it's whatever. So that's kind of my what should we stop doing. You can pick a start or a stop or whatever, but you get the sense of what we're trying to do. And you know, if somebody has a follow-up question, why do you feel that way? I think it was funny. I was with Ethan at the Fire and EMS Expo in Ohio, and we literally saw a hose bed that you would almost need a 14-foot ladder to get to it. You would need a pencil ladder or a folding ladder to get to the hose bed of this apparatus. If I stood on the tailboard at 6 feet, I would be fully extended my arm to reach the hose bed. Is that a good idea, bad idea? I know when you design apparatus, it's got a lot of factors to it, how much water, weight, all those things. But I'm thinking my fire service should stop building apparatus so big. Anybody on the panel got one? Fire service should start or stop something? Anybody dive in? Come on, Rob, I'm betting on you.
I'm thinking. I'm not objected to what you just said. Apparatus is getting big. I mean, I have apparatus in my department. The shorter guys, they're not getting the hose off the bed. I actually saw an engine in a neighboring department whose, I'll bet the hose bed was at least 10 feet off the ground with no tailboard. I don't know how.
Excellent. Yeah.
Aside from the 3 pre-connects that they had.
Right. Yeah, so that's one. John, I saw you unmuted. You got one you want to toss in there?
Yeah, regarding the apparatus, how about we make the pump panel less complicated? Let's get away from the electronics and go back to straight levers to open this stuff, so we're not doing the fly-by-wire stuff.
Yeah, so I have a good friend. It's funny you say that. I have a good friend that says he worked on a tower ladder that got jammed up when the computer failed, and he said that computers belong on desks and not on fire trucks. So I think that's kind of what you're alluding to. Pump panels have become very complex, and in fact, in the old days, they were just, manual. It was push-pull, open a lever, make stuff happen, and now there's a series of electronics which tend to complicate things. So, yeah, I think that's a good one, John. I think that's a good one. Anybody else got anything? Anything we should start doing? How about face piece on? Anything we ought to start doing more of?
I think we need to wear our mask a little more, particularly on overhaul.
Yeah, see,
yeah. The pitch, I'll hit the ball, Pete. Thanks.
All right. You see, I'm not a bad guy. I throw them right out there. Take them. I think I'm going to go farther than that, Robin. I think, it's certainly mask discipline, and I think we're hard to believe, but you're talking to a guy who was like, we had 3 pieces of apparatus and 1 mask on each piece, right? And the instructions are, if it's bad, you wear that. I mean, that's how I started. So I think we've gotten better. But I want to take it to another level. I think we should start, the fire service should start taking cancer very seriously. And I think that ties. I think that ties to your message.
I think we need to, along those lines, each department needs to start a program where they wash their gear more often as well. It's not the fire that you went to today or yesterday that's going to get you. The fire you went to 3 months ago, when you still have all of that dirt in your gear, and it's an August, you might not be going to a fire, you might be going to an MVA, but it's an August afternoon and it's 85, 90 degrees out and it's humid as hell. Because every 5 degrees your temperature goes up on your skin, your absorption rate increases by 400%. So you're sucking in all of that stuff that you were exposed to literally weeks ago that you haven't washed out of the gear.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, do you have gear washing in your station, or do you have to do it mutual aid, Rob?
We have a full set of gear washers and dryers at our headquarters, and we do every 6 months wash the members' gear.
Great. John, just a quick survey. What do you do? Do you have gear washing facilities in-house, or do you have to go to a neighboring department?
Check that out. So it's sort of more expensive for us to be getting our gear washed. Truthfully, just like Rob said, every time we're wearing our gear, we're exposing ourselves. Somebody also posted up about washing your hood. Thyroid cancer in fire service has gone through the roof this past couple of years just because we're not washing our hoods. We forget about the hood. We wash the bunkers. We wash the coat.
Your helmet.
That hood's right around our neck all the time, and our helmet.
Yeah,
You're
good
absolutely
stuff.
right, Robert.
Good stuff. So, for the members of that might be watching us today, right, the new program that has been started is called Wash Your Hood Sunday. And thank you for that, Ethan, to get that out there as you watch us live here on Sunday night. Make sure you wash your hood today. Ethan, what do you think? Student of the trade, what should we start doing or stop doing? Anything?
Well, Pete, I think we need to start really seriously looking at and learning from LODDs and close calls.
Yeah, okay, so expand on that a little bit. So you say we have NIOSH reports, we have LODDs, we have firefighter near miss, we have the secret list. What are you thinking? We're not learning enough? What's your premise?
Well, along those lines, yeah, and we're still getting people killed the same ways. The numbers are repeating themselves, so to speak. Everything from heart attack to building collapse to everything else.
Yeah, okay.
And the worst is getting killed during training.
Yeah, that's right. Those are pretty much preventable circumstances during training. All right, so let me give you another start. What we should start doing. Every firefighter in America, paid or volunteer, should be given a physical. I'm not talking about doing 100 push-ups. I'm talking about a medical physical to get some baseline, to get some data. We should start making sure. If we look at, half of our deaths are heart attack, heart related. Could I figure that out early? I mean, we've had some successes. I think I've said this on previous roundtables. I was an abysmal failure at this. My labor organization didn't want any part of this and fought me vehemently on this. And I understand the fear and the uncertainty and what have you and all of that stuff. But I think that some of the departments here in Rhode Island and nearby Massachusetts, they've had guys go in for an annual physical and come up with cancer, early detection, heart problems, early detection. It would probably save people's lives already because of early detection. So I think that's a start. I think that's something we should start doing as another one. Christine or Adam, I don't want to leave you out of the discussion, but I don't want to drag you in if you don't need to. So,
No, I'm going to throw one thing out.
Sure.
I see my guys doing a lot is they tuck the nozzle underneath their arm. They're not getting that nozzle out there about arm lengths away. They're tucking it so when they're turning their whole body, where if you got that nozzle out there with that hose, you can actually work the hose and not your body.
Yeah, so really Adam's talking about a very specific thing about nozzle handling and tucking it under your arm. My favorite is, I'll probably get hate mail for this, but my favorite is when you're tucking it under your arm and you got a pistol grip on it like this, which I don't really believe belongs there, but hey, that's just me. But what is Adam really saying? He's talking about a start and a refocus on the basics. There's an awful lot of talk about that. A lot of talk about going back to basics. But are there departments still making basic mistakes, just like what Adam's talking about? I think that there's... so he's talking about a start to return to basics. So... Anything else? We got a comment from Frank. Frank's watching us. I can't bring the comment in, but he said he seconds the physicals. He's in favor of the physicals. So thank you for that, Frank. I appreciate your comment and your input. John, go ahead. What do you got?
The state of New Jersey has a thing called a gift from Captain Buscio, who was a captain from Jersey City Fire Department who passed away a number of years ago. Due to a heart attack. Previous to his heart attack, he had a physical by his doctor, and he was cleared. He died of a heart attack, so his wife, after his death, put together a thing called Gift for Captain Buscio. All police, fire, and their spouses, career and volunteer, can go and have a medical physical done each year, and it just costs what the insurance will pay for it. No out-of-pocket expense. It's a great thing that's out there if a lot of guys aren't going to it, and ladies as well.
Yeah, well,
But this is in New Jersey.
Well, no, I mean, that's just phenomenal. I think of these poor, I think of these, and I don't say poor widows that I have pity. I just feel so sorry for women that I've seen that do something like that to, I speak every week about never forget. She's never going to forget her husband because she is giving a gift that is lasting in promoting her husband's name. And I think if any of you do not know the story of Vina Drennan from the City of New York Fire Department, her husband was tragically burned in a terrible fire and suffered some 40 or 41 days in a burn unit. And she made a push to make sure FDNY got bunker pants. That was her push, and really made it a mission to make sure that they got bunker pants. So those lasting gifts. And I think, John, what I was going to say is there is a fear. How many of us here love to go to the doctor, right? We don't. I mean, I don't. I don't want to hear what he's got to say. I don't want anybody poking me, pinching me, prodding me, or doing any of that stuff. And so there is a natural hesitancy to do it. But, when in the next breath, we talk about being there for the brotherhood and being there for our family, yet we're not really willing to do anything about it. So those are some starts or stops. I guess we've really combined some starts and stops there. What else should we stop doing at a national level? Anybody?
I think we need to stop policing ourselves into a corner as well. Seems like we have some type of policy for everything. And if you start reading the policies, they often contradict one another. We've gotten so many policies that we can't enforce them all. It's really starting to get out of control.
Yeah, and I think, so you tell me what you think, Rob. What is the origin of all these policies? How did this happen? How did we get in this box?
I think it's a long list of reasons. From the volunteer side, personally, I think it's starting to hurt our recruitment, that it takes 6 months now, twice a week, 3 hours a night to become it's like 160 hours to become an EMT in New York State. Not to mention your hospital time, not to mention the time you have to take to study when you're home. It's a good 6 to 7 months, 8 months of firefighter one. But people are just getting busier and busier. Who has the time? If you start looking at the statistics, the number of EMTs that we have, and definitely the number of good EMTs that we have, because we recertify every 3 years, is starting to fall. And the number of people that I see graduating firefighter one from the fire academy is starting to fall. I mean, I have smart people, especially when they were doing the national standard test, which they started, and it was so horrendous they actually stopped, that I was getting people that have 95, 98 averages in school and in college. We're getting 70s on this test. It was impossible. Nobody was passing it. Thank God they finally realized, you know what, this isn't for us, because we're not going to have any firefighters on the street. And they bailed. They went back to the state test.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The time constraints on people now are demanding. I also think that the policy thing for me, I think that lawyers are running the fire service, and I'm not bashing, but there are so many legal challenges now and so many hurdles that we are putting ourselves in a corner. I think that's one problem, and I also have to say that some of the firefighter behavior has caused some of these some of our own behavior has caused some of these policies, which certainly aren't pleasant all the time. Christine, do you want to add something? Christine, I saw you on mute. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I agree with you. I read so many times that a lot of policies come in now because of their behavior, which had a negative effect on the department. that behavior has to be eliminated or at least controlled. And unfortunately, to kind of piggyback on what Chief Link said, we write so many policies. I recall from your podcast interview with John Dixon that we to have so many policies because of negative behavior, and to kind of treat unequals.
Right. Is Christine's audio being chopped for everyone?
Yeah.
All right. So, Christine, I want you to try something. Just turn off your camera so we get your static picture, because we're losing your audio on bandwidth. So let's try it with that. Now try to give me just the tail end of what you just said and see if you save bandwidth by that.
Okay. What you had said to John was, there's nothing so unequal as the equal treatment of unequals. You were quoting from someone else. And I agree with that. You can't treat everyone the same way. Just because one firefighter did this, now everybody has to suffer.
Right. And that's the bane of every fire department. John, you're in a career department, I'm taking it. Passaic is a career city. You might be muted, John.
Okay, yes. Passaic is a career department, correct.
Right. So if I made this statement, you let me know if I'm right or wrong, that you could probably look at the collective bargaining agreement or the rules and regulations and actually sit at the kitchen table and put people's names to each one of those. This is because John did this, or Sam did that, or Sally did this. Almost every line in our rules and regulations has some origin somewhere. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. The lawyers, like you said, are seem to be running different departments. I ride for a volunteer department as well, and it just seems like once something new comes up, they cross that bridge. All right, well, we're going to make policy on this now.
Right.
I think that's across the board between departments everywhere right now.
Yeah, and let me not cast a stone here. I mean, as chief of department, I found myself in that position. Something would happen today, and somebody would say, well, what's your policy on that? And I would have to answer, we don't have a policy on that. So it appears that you're making a knee-jerk reaction, but you have to somehow document the events that have just taken place. So great one. That's a good one. So good point there, Rob. Anybody got anything else? Go ahead.
A good thing. I'm sitting here and I'm holding the fire service laws of the state of New York. I don't know if you can tell how thick this book is.
A couple inches, probably.
But this is actually, what this is for me as a chief is a set of handcuffs.
Right.
Because basically the lawyers will tell you, if I have a discipline problem with somebody, basically my hands are tied to excuse them from the department. There is an excuse for everything that I can't get rid of people.
Right.
Sometimes, you hate to do it, but sometimes it's needed.
Well, yeah, and I think that really, let me ask you, so is that another start that we have to really make the investment in the background checks, even on volunteer firefighters, because once you get people on the front end, if you take them in, it is very, very difficult to discharge them unless you've got a strong probationary clause or something of that nature. You gotta straighten that out on the front end. It's funny, we'll have a committee of 5 people to decide to build a pumper, right? We have a truck committee, and then we're going to start hiring people. We do a Sunday open house, and we start sucking people in the volunteer recruitment effort, and we spent more time buying a pumper and researching that than we did on the people coming in some cases. John, you wanna jump in?
Just going back to what the chief was saying, I say we have to do a proactive approach to this. Once we get new members, whether it's volunteer or career, explain the rules and regulations, explain the history of the fire department. They're not getting it in Fire 1 because Fire 1's too long, as it is. And we need to explain the traditions, the good, the bad, the ugly, and explain where we've come and why we're going there. I go back to Backdraft, 100 years of tradition unimpeded by progress. Well, there's been a lot of progress in the past 20 years in the fire service. We have to explain what's going on and how we got to where we are. 9/11 was a catalyst for many changes, monumental changes in the fire service. Now we're first responders. Well, we have to explain why and how we got there to these new guys coming on, and gals coming on into the fire service, and explain. With the explanation, I find more respect and better comprehension of what we do for customer service.
Yeah, very, very well said. And that sounded vague. I'm going to tease you, John. That sounded vaguely similar to John Dixon's indoctrination speech.
You know what? And I haven't heard his speech, so John and I definitely see eye to eye on a lot of things, and it's good working with John.
Yeah, no, it's he's got the same philosophy on that for sure. How about we stop? One of the things that has really been the bane of my existence probably for the past 6 or 8 months, I'm really sick of arguing about the UL study and the NIST study. I'm tired. I think we ought to stop that one. We need to stop the argument. Just process the data however it works for your department. Just process the data and do what you need to do. And let's stop the argument with who's right, who's wrong. I can't be outside. I can't be inside. Whatever the argument is, because I don't even know anymore. I don't even know what we're arguing about anymore. I think some of it is just for entertainment value for social media. But I'm in favor of stopping that argument. So I don't know. Anybody on that bandwagon or?
I think it's just another tool. It's just another learning device. There's definitely a place for it. I had this discussion. I was at a seminar Thursday night, and the instructor, who was from a large suburban department, not the FDNY, he's down by John's Way, said that there's absolutely no use in that, and that if it's a private dwelling residential structure fire, he's going inside. And he was from a paid department, and I could agree with that. But from a volunteer side, if I'm standing on the front lawn and my first due engine shows up, and I have a combined experience of the 6 guys on there of a year and a half, and this thing's ripping, it might benefit me to put some water in the window to slow this thing down and go through the front door after that.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Rob. I don't mean to make a commercial, but my podcast last week was circumstances dictate your procedures. You deal with the hand you got when the bell rings, and more importantly, when you show up on the front lawn. Those are the circumstances you're dealt with. So that's how you play it. So yeah, I'm in favor of stopping the argument. Ethan, you've been listening quietly. What do you got? You got a start or a stop for us?
Pete, how about we stop driving like idiots? What's the LOTDs? 1/4 is driving related? It's ridiculous.
How do you really feel about that? Can you be more direct on that?
Stop sugarcoating it.
Yeah, tell me how you really feel. Yeah, you know what? Stop driving crazy. I got a 60-second safety that's coming up that's going to kind of tick everybody off, I'm sure. But yeah, I agree. Stop driving erratically, and I think that's a problem. While we're on the driving issue, right? How about we start? Every person wears a seatbelt, no exception. Every person wears a seatbelt, no exception. I think that's well underway, but I think that's something we got to deal with as well. So you're getting a sense. I want to keep going with the discussion, but for the folks that are listening, this is something I want you to do in your own department. ask the question of your members. What 3 things should we start doing? What 3 things should we stop doing? Now, you're going to get very specific things when you speak about it in your own department. You're going to get, stop running engine 6 as the reserve piece or whatever it is. And maybe that has some merit. You have to weigh all of these out. But I thought we would just kind of demonstrate it by using this discussion here tonight. Any starts or stops? Adam, Adam or Christine, any starts or stops? Just let me know.
I'm going to chime in on Ethan's about the driving. I've got a few volunteers here when they're responding to the station with their driving. So Ethan hit it on the head in my area on some of my guys is the driving.
Yeah, well, and it's so you got 2 problems there, right? It's driving the apparatus, but it's also driving your personally owned vehicles, right? So there's in the volunteer side of the house, that's really twofold. I
want to chime in on our department, and I know we're not supposed to talk about, but our guys are really good about putting their seatbelts on when they get in the apparatus. Our new tanker that we got just this past summer actually has a black box in it, similar to what's in a jetliner. And if you get into a apparatus crash with it, it'll tell you how fast you were going if you had your seatbelt on. So it gives all the information to the lawyer or the courts. So I think that's a great deal in our tanker, that black box.
Yeah, and does everybody know the black box is there? Is it a deterrent?
Yeah, when we got it, our dealer that came down and went over the tanker with us actually told us that there's a box in there, so if anything ever happens where we get into a accident, they can pull that information out of that box, and it'll be right there how fast you're going, seat belts, it tells them everything.
Right. Excellent. What else? Rob, you got anything?
Not at the moment. I'm going to keep thinking here. I'm sure I'll come up with something.
All right. John, you made a comment in the chat room there about the Jones and Bartlett. Can you elaborate, or you'd rather not elaborate on that? I'm not clear what the comment is. I'm watching it go by, but I'm not sure what the context is.
Jones and Bartlett is what the state of New Jersey is using for their Firefighter 1 classes. Okay. So they're teaching out of that. 3rd edition's coming out, and within a year or 2 after this, I believe, the 4th edition's coming out with all the studies from the UL and the NIST. So it's going to be part of the fire service. Things of firefighting 15, 20 years ago obviously are changing. They're changing from the past of all wood and cotton and natural stuff to the synthetics. We know it's doubled the BTUs and the flame resist release rate, heat release rate. Things are coming up. But just like the chief said, depends upon what you got on scene when you roll up and your experience, whether it's younger experience, all depends upon the scenario and the situation at hand. You can't. There's no always, and there's not always nevers in the fire service.
No, that's well said. You always and never really don't belong in our vocabulary, certainly. Thank you, John. That was very positive. So let me ask you a question. If all of us on the panel, we've got a couple of young folks as students, and we've all been around for 10 or 15 minutes. We all believe that there's a high heat release rate. We are all stepping away from the wood and wool and cotton days, and we all say that the furniture is plastic in a bubble, right? Gasoline in a bubble. That's what our polyurethanes are, and all of it. All of us agree with all of what I just said. Why aren't we using foam on every attack? Why are we still attempting to absorb BTUs with a 160-gallon per minute nozzle? And why are we not at it? If we all agree that the fuel is all flammable, combustible, gasoline in a bubble, hydrocarbon-based, all of the buzzwords that we throw around, why isn't every interior attack line using some agent? I don't know.
Oh, I want to jump in on here, Chief. In my little department here, our budget just doesn't have the funds to buy all the foam and replace the foam every time we use it. So Is that an excuse? Probably not, but our budget is very tight in our small little volunteer department for doing foam all the time on structures.
Okay, so let me, I could debate that offline, Adam. I'll debate that with you offline, but I would say this. The number of fires you have a year and the number of hours you spend at a fire, would it be productive to add agent? If you're at a structure fire for 2 hours right now, your department operates at a structure fire for 2 hours, would it be cost effective to add an agent and do that fire in an hour and reduce your folks to less toxins, less stuff? I don't want to rattle that guy up. I hate to unchain that face piece on guy. I know how he is. But would it be better to reduce your exposure to the garbage that you're breathing by adding agent? I don't know. I'm asking the question, and I just put it out there as a rhetorical. I don't have an answer. But I hear what we say all the time, and I hear what we do. Why isn't we're not doing something? Rob, what are you thinking?
Well, I agree. It comes down to cost. I also want to say that it is that 6-letter word that sometimes we don't like to use in the fire service, which is change. We've always gone with the straight water attack. I've seen departments around here start with like Class A foam and then end up getting away from it after a while. I would absolutely be open to use it. I mean, you're probably going to achieve a faster knockdown, end up using less water. And from that standpoint, you could probably end up using a lot less foam.
Yeah, I mean,
if you have a 5-gallon pail and you dial it down just to give you the wetting agent, you're probably using next to nothing. So
right.
It's not like you go into a fire and using 400 gallons of foam for a room and contents fire.
Well, yeah, that's my point. If we're talking about the foam, we're talking about 1/2 of 1%, right? That's the kind of foam we're talking about. And so that kind of makes a difference. I'm not being critical. Please don't anybody believe that I'm being critical about this. It just is something that amazes me. Is we always put up it's hotter, it's faster, it's different fuel, it's all of that stuff. And then when I say, well, why don't we do something different about it? I think Rob hit it. I think it's change. It's a whole mindset change that's completely different. It is frightening. Somebody's going to think that I planned this, but right on cue. How are you there, Joe Stans? I just want to check your audio. Are you with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Got a good view. The video's good and everything's there. You appeared on cue as we were having a discussion that if fires are different today by nature of the fuel and heat release rate and all of those sorts of things, hydrocarbon-based products in our home, if that's the case and we all agree and we all know that, then why are we not using an agent on every attack? So that's where you appear in. Somebody's going to swear that I planned that, but do you want to dive into the comment or do you want to just let that one go by?
Well, I don't mind. The terrible thing about myself, Chief, is I have an opinion. I always have one. It is kind of like a lot of other things in life. There's usually a lot of them, and who knows which one is worth using. From a standpoint of what we've done with KTF and the other couple other things, is that we're what we've seen so far is that if we start fighting the fire earlier, that's part of all the controversy about when we're putting water on the fire. We start fighting the fire earlier. If we start trying to stop off-gassing contributes heavily to the heat in a room. In other words, once the gases move out of the fire compartment and start convecting and radiating to the other products of combustion, we start getting off-gassing. As soon as we start getting off-gassing, not only are we getting the fuel, we're getting the temperature at which it starts off-gassing, 300, 400, 500 degrees, whatever it is. If we do something with that to slow that up, we give ourselves a larger window of opportunity to fight fire. I personally am one that with the right surfactant, and I do mean the right one, there are differences in these things. With the right surfactant, I think that I would, given a gunfight, I would want to take the best and the most gun with the most ammunition. If I go into that fight in that fire compartment with fuel storage or even a bidirectional flow, my best gunfight is to stop off-gassing. I will stop off-gassing factors under test much better if I leave a surfactant that holds the water on it, because it's got to get rid of the water before it can start to off-gas. As an old fire chief told me back in the late 60s, early 70s, he says, you put the smallest, thinnest film of water on it, Starnes, and it will not burn. And that's kind of where we are with that. Chief Oak is, of course, the guy on our team that's on that leg of the stool we call enhanced water streams. I personally will not go into a fire, fight fire, work fire with Oak Grove or anybody else unless I use an enhanced stream. I can move that from 0.1%, 0.2% with this particular type of agent we're using, all the way up to 1%, but typically no higher than 0.5. And it is it's just given us many more minutes of time, opportunity and time in that fire compartment, as opposed to what we were before we started getting temperatures above 500 and start racing to flash over. Let me just say to you, Chief, my experience with this is if I have airflow and I have 500 degrees, I have seconds till I have 1,000. And what we're doing is saying if we stop that, if we put that, we stop, not only do we cool gases, but if we stop off-gassing, we got to do more than cool gases. If we stop off-gassing, we stop that growth from 500 to 1,000 in seconds. And that's life safety for the customer and for the firefighter. So that's where I am, Chief. It wasn't a short answer, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I don't know if you know the answer to this because you're not the guy signing the paychecks, but any idea how much Oak Grove spends on foam on a yearly basis? Any clue?
Well, before we started using the one we're using right now, it's negotiable. It's so small there's not a budget line in the budget for it.
Okay.
That's how small it is. If we're talking about finished foam products, and you know that better than me talking to Chief Oak, if I'm talking about finished water supply, finished foam, I take 1,000 gallons of water. It takes 4 gallons of this agent we use to run that. And that is a UEL, that's a UEF tested foam and .5 at Class B. So to do that, I am going to use 5 gallons at Class B for 1,000 gallons of water. If I don't do something with the first 1,000, typically I'm not doing a lot. And the concept of that's costing 5 gallons is costing us somewhere around $125. Right.
That's
and my take on that is we're going home. If we take the diesel fuel away and the soot and carbon absorption we get from it, I'm not sure that $125 is not way less. I wouldn't say what it is, but it's certainly not what it is. So,
Right. All right, well, let's continue that discussion, but I'm very late getting to a comment from the audience. I did get a comment in. Robbie, thanks for being here. I'm sorry this is a little bit late. We were talking about bigger apparatus earlier. Functionality is limited. Robbie says that he likes some of the electronics. Things like automatic valves make it easier for limited staffing. DPO, I think that's driver pump operator in his system, have to serve dual roles. So he's making the point that there may be some merit to the electronics, and that goes back to a discussion we had a little bit earlier. Apologize, I was late getting to you, Robbie, on that, but that's there. So, okay. That's that. What else we got? Any good discussion, Chief? I appreciate your input on that. Your timing is impeccable, or at least this once. Uh, yeah, you don't have to answer me. I'm just going to give it to you anyway. What else we got? Anything we need to start or stop in the American Fire Service today? Start or stop? Let's just kind of recap a little bit. We talked about bigger apparatus. We think we should stop that. We think we should start simplifying pumps again. We should start focusing more on face piece on, cancer, washing gear, cleaning our stuff, learning from line of duty deaths a little bit more, lessons learned. Stop driving a little crazy, and certainly an approach to back to basics. Those were all things we should start. What about the stops? We're a little. What else on stops? Anything you want to stop in the American Fire Service? We are good. What a bunch of guys. We're all in agreement on everything. Joe, you want to chime in?
I'm not so sure. I apologize for being late. We should start teaching old people how to use technology better. From a stop standpoint, one of the things I think we've got to do is we really need to stop teaching the wrong things. It's not so much they're the wrong things. We're just teaching. People are trying to uniformly teach, in my opinion. They're trying to uniformly teach fire science stuff with the variables different for each department. We get a class and we look like we get 4 engines, 2 trucks, and a squad and battalion chief, and then if we go full box, we get more than that. And then we're talking a rural department that's going to build the fire engine the same way that company is just putting 4 engines, 2 trucks, and a squad on. They're going to build the fire engine the same way. I used to be a big guy that in the rural areas we were buying custom cabs 8.5 foot wide with 8 foot roads. It was 8 foot lanes. It was not. We got to use our head, and we got to adapt to what we do. If you've got it, do it. God bless you. If you can put 40 people on a fire scene in 5 minutes, you've got a lot more flexibility than if you can put 5 people on a fire scene in 20 minutes. So we got to quit writing the book like it's one book. It's not one book anymore. We got to stop that. We got to start teaching this fire science and this fire tactics in a way that somebody can take it home to their home. This stuff of this is the right way you ought to be read, I don't buy it. I think this is the right way for you, a right way for me, but we all have to, as professionals, go back to do that. So that was my stop.
Yeah, no, I think so. And your opening statement also led me to another instructor that's out there doing some work, and that's Chief Gassaway. And so his issue is, training for failure. Have we been teaching wrong many years in the past? If you have not seen that program, Training for Failure, it's worth taking a look at, because I saw myself on both sides of it. I saw myself as a student taking training that was not quite it set me up for, and I also found myself as an instructor many years ago, maybe doing it the wrong way. So training the correct way, I think, is an important one, Joe. Not only for the things you said, but for the way we train. For example, one of the things used, and it kind of ties into the things that Joe is doing with Kill the Flashover. We talk about do a 360 every time. We'll go out to a live burn and we will say, all right, pretend you did a 360 and take a crew in. Well, pretend you did a 360. What does that guy or gal remember? They don't remember doing a 360. They don't know how long it's going to take them to walk around the structure. They've never looked at it with a tick or anything else. So, don't short circuit your training. Try to do it. Train like you fight. That's the military acronym, train like you fight, and that's something we got to do. Anything else for starting or stopping? What are
One thing I would say, Chief, you talked about that training. I'd like to add one thing. I wrote something this week, and I'm starting to believe what I wrote. I write editorials, and then I read them, and then I thought, well, I was right. I wrote something this week. I said, I believe the greatest form of freelancing in the American Fire Service is in the classroom.
Ouch. What do you mean? Expand that a little bit.
I've watched instructors who work for collegiate systems, and they will say things in classrooms that they believe not what they know. And I watch them make statements on nozzles and on flows and things like that. And I don't. And when you kind of go deep with that, I think you got to be careful. I think those statements, if pushed to the nth degree, are not correct. I think we are saying things that are absolutely not correct for every student in the class, and you got to be careful with that. So they'll somebody take a PowerPoint slide and take off with it and make statements, and they'll freelance. Well, I think it always ought to be this. You got to be careful with that. I don't, if you fight fire with a straight string with a solid bore, you can fight fire safely with a solid bore. If you fight fires with a combination nozzle and if you staff it and do it right and as you do with a solid bore, you can fight fire with a combination nozzle. But to walk in a room and say it's solid bore or nothing, I think that's freelancing. I really do. I think that's an instructor taking liberties that they do not have. And I think we're not policing our instructors, especially our instructors that are going from department to department for colleges in our system, and they're making statements and taking their experiences and they're writing their own classroom, not in their slides. They're using the standard slide produced by the AHJ, but they're making statements that are absolutely freelance, and I think we've got to be careful with it.
All right, instructional freelance. I like it. John, you said in chat you might have another one that we ought to stop.
My idea is stopping doing the do more with less mentality. I'm tired of it. We're doing more with less with manpower. We're doing more with less because of less money for training as well as equipment. It's ridiculous. Chief just touched on it. You can do a good job with a combination nozzle if you're staffed right. Well, what's staffing? Across the river from me in New York, they're riding 5-man engine, 6-man trucks. Tonight I'm riding with the driver, officer, and one guy in the jump seat on my ladder truck. 10 miles away, New York City, compared to my city, where I've got 100,000 people in a small 3 square miles. Where's the equality in this in the fire service? We're doing more with less, and we're economically handcuffed. It's just one of the frustrations that we need to stop somehow.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Staffing is the bane of every fire service discussion. It's it's really an issue that plagues us. And you're right. We continue to perform the job. If tonight the bell rings, that ladder truck's going out with those guys, and they're going to do whatever it is they can achieve when they arrive on the fire ground. So I think that that certainly is one that we need to wrestle with, and it's going on for a long time. I mean, there's some guys that have talked about this. 1710 was supposed to be the boilerplate for standards for response, if you will, or operating. Fire Department Operations, I think, is what it's titled. And that's based on a 2,000 square foot house. So tonight, if you roll into a factory or you roll into something different, how does that work? And what's happened is the fire service is a serious financial drain on any community. And again, until there's a conflagration, nobody really cares if a house burns down here or there. Excuse me. Nobody really cares if a house burns down here or there. They do care if the entire city block burns down or the downtown or whatever. There's no question. So I don't know how we worked that out. It was something that as a chief officer I struggled with. We didn't have enough guys to start with, and then they told me to lay off 6. And so how do you do that? How do you manage it? So I get that one. I really get that one, truly. So let's just begin to summarize as we go here. We're approaching the hour, so let's just summarize a little bit. So our task here tonight was a little more difficult because what we said is what 3 things should the fire service start doing? What 3 things should the fire service stop doing? And, if you do this in your own department, it would sound like what 3 things should this department start doing, or what 3 things should this department stop doing, or what things are we doing well? You can actually make it 9 questions. And I suggest that you do this. If not your whole department, at least with the officer corps. And give them some time to think about it. And you will be surprised at the data you get back and how you're able to make some decisions with what you got. Now, there'll be some nonsense in there, and there'll be some malice in there. Somebody will say, we ought to fire the chief, or we'll get all that stuff in there. And once you sort through the wheat and the chaff, you'll be able to figure out that you probably have a good functional tool. This is a good tool that you can use just to take the pulse of your organization. If you're watching this and you're only an engine company officer, do it with your engine crew tomorrow at the table. Do it in your department at whatever level you can do it at, and it is a functional tool if you choose to use it. That's important. I think that's the key, is if you choose to use the results. So any final words, Rob, as we go down? You saw the exercise. What do you think of the exercise? Could it be used in a department? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's all good stuff tonight. And as Chief Storms brought up, what basically reinforced what we were discussing before he jumped on, that as far as the line with the new fire research, so I can take what that guy said to me the other night as freelancing in the classroom. Don't tell me that I never dump water in the window, and don't tell me that I always dump water in the window. I got to do what's right for me at that particular moment, and to make sure, number one, we all go home, and make sure I put the fire out.
Right. Yeah, make sure we're saving Grandma on the floor, and we're all going home afterwards. That's the goal. Joe, anything? Just a quick summary statement. What do you think about the exercise of asking your members what 3 things should we stop or start? Is that a valid exercise we could use to help us along as we're navigating a small department?
Oh, I think so, Chief. I think that's always a good place to go. I think you have to have a strong leader in that, because somebody may want to start something or stop something without a foundation of what else they need to understand. So strong leadership in those meetings is absolutely essential. We used to have a discussion in quality about doing a customer survey about what should we be doing in the future, and I've often asked, I said, you can get ideas, but do not write a plan from that, because I'm going to the patient and asking them how to do better brain surgery while the doctor's listening. They're going to get characteristics of what the patient needs, but they're not going to be able to really ensure that brain surgery is absolutely done correctly and safely. So you got to be careful with that, but absolutely do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. You got to sort it out. You need a good filter. John, statement as we begin to wrap up here.
Yes, first off, I want to thank you for the invite tonight. It was great to be on the panel, and hopefully I can return at some time if you invite me back. But it's a great exercise, throwing it to the members, asking them for their opinion. That's one of these things that we've seemed to get away from. And by asking the members, both firefighters, officers on the career side, as well as just our regular members in the volunteer side and the body, of what we can do to improve, what's good, what's bad. Everybody feels involved and can be part of that change. That is the bad 5-letter word.
Right, absolutely. John, after we end the broadcast, I want you to stay online, so don't disconnect, John. Ethan, summary statement as we wrap it up.
No, I think it's definitely a good exercise, definitely even more applicable with your own department.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those where I was trying to do it from remote control, but yeah, it certainly is valuable for your own department. Christine, a summary statement, if you would.
We've discussed all good topics with these questions, and I think it's a good idea to present these, if not to the whole membership, to at least your officer cadre. That way, you can find out what their views are, what they think of, what you present to them, and perhaps it may lead to positive changes. You don't know until you find out what's on their minds.
Yep, very good, very well said. Adam, last word from you as we wrap up, and then I've got some comments from the audience. I just want to wrap up with that.
No, I'm just going to say, very great discussion tonight. Some good takeaway for me to take back to members and also the officers to our department. So I think it was a very, very great subject tonight.
Good. Thank you, Adam. A couple of quick ones from the folks. Again, I'm a little behind. I apologize for that. Frank, thanks for being here. And we were talking about bringing people in, being able to get rid of folks. So hire the right people by testing their emotional intelligence. Do their values meet our values? And that, psychological testing for fire and all of those things and extensive background checks, I think that investment has to be made, and we can all say we don't have the resources to do that, but very, very well said, Frank. He's in here with a couple of quick comments. Johnny, thank you for being here. Sorry I'm so late. We need to stop being complacent and train more realistically. Yeah, I think absolutely that's a stop, right? We need to stop being complacent, train more realistically, get out of the chair, pull some hose, raise a ladder, squirt some water. I think that's all valid stuff. And comes back with, complacency is one of the biggest downfalls, and I'm not sure I could agree any more with that. It becomes very, very difficult to fight that battle. You have to be vigilant every day. Has to be vigilant, and the member has to be personally vigilant, their own personal discipline. So, folks that have blogs and stuff. So, Rob, give us a little commercial. Where can folks find you?
You can always find me at robertdfling.com, firefightertoolbox.com. I'm a monthly contributor over there. facepieceon.com, and if anyone would like to send me an email, it's robertdfling@gmail.com.
Thanks, Rob. Joe, where can folks find your work and the stuff you're doing?
Chief, we're at joestarnes.com, or proxy is killtheflashover.com. I'm Starnes03 on Twitter. I'm Starnes03 on LinkedIn. So Starnes03@gmail.com. All those are good places to find the geezer.
All right, great stuff. And John, are you writing? Are you out there on social media? You wanna give out a way to folks to hunt you down?
Absolutely, I appreciate it. I'm also a contributor for Firefighter Toolbox. I am fire instructor John Hayowick at gmail.com, and that's pretty much it. I'm out here looking to taking the information that we're getting tonight. Tonight was great listening to the panel. Every day I go to work, or every run I go on, I learn something new, how to better myself, better my team, and keep everybody safe so everyone goes home.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And if you're looking for me, it's PeteLiam.com. It's at Pete Liam on Twitter. And I encourage you to go over to the Firefighter Training Podcast. Firefighter Training Podcast is the audio stuff. And, of course, these sessions can be found on firefightingtoday.com. All of the archives are there, and we appreciate everybody listening and tuning in. We will see you next week.